1448, a boy of 17 claimed Wallachia's throne, its iron crown heavy with betrayal. Vlad III, son of the dragon, stood in Targovast's hall, the air thick with whispers. His father's blood stained the cobblestones, a noble's dagger, the silent assassin. The throne loomed, a death sentence cloaked in glory. At 12, Vlad was dragged to the Ottoman court, a hostage bound in iron. The Sultan's palace gleamed, but its marble halls echoed with screams. Public executions burned into his mind. Heads rolling, blood pooling like crimson rivers. Mercy was weakness here, a lesson the boys swallowed with every lash. In Edirne's shadowed courts, Vlad learned fear's language. A traitor's body hung, skewered on a stake. His gurgled cries a warning. The Ottomans ruled through dread, their empire a tapestry of agony. Vlad's heart hardened, his eyes cold. To survive this world, he'd become its most terrifying shadow. In 1447, Wallachia mourned. Vlad's father fell to his boyar's blades, throat slit in the night. His brother Mircea was buried alive by Hungarian hands, dirt choking his screams. News reached Vlad in captivity, each word a dagger. Rage simmered beneath his chains. He'd make their betrayers scream louder. In 1456, Vlad returned, a tempest over Wallachia. At 25, he seized the throne, his father's killers still breathing. The land reeked of war, Ottoman banners on the horizon. Vlad's gaze was steel, his voice a vow. The boyars would kneel, or their blood would soak the earth. Vlad's justice was swift, his method brutal. A boyar, once loyal to his father, knelt in the square. The blunt stake pierced his rectum, wood grinding through flesh with a wet squelch. His scream tore the dawn, blood dripping as he writhed. Vlad's lips curled, a dark satisfaction bloomed within. Impalement became Vlad's art, a spectacle of agony. The stake's rounded tips slid through flesh, cracking bones, splitting organs with a sickening crunch. The victim's weight dragged him down, his wails a symphony of despair. Vlad watched, a flicker of joy in his eyes. Power tasted sweeter with their screams. Outside Targovist, stakes rose like a forest. 100 boyars impaled in rows. Stakes tore through torsos, exiting mouths, blood bubbling with each gasp. Their moans carried on the wind, decay's stench a warning. Vlad stood among them, his chest swelling with grim delight. Their suffering crowned his reign. In 1459, Vlad summoned Targovist's nobles to an Easter feast, their silks shimmering. Laughter filled the hall, goblets clinking. Vlad toasted unity, his smile a blade. Then guards sealed the doors, steel flashing. Screams erupted as stakes were readied. The feast would end in blood, not bread. The nobles' kin marched to Castle Dracula, bare feet bleeding on jagged stones. A child stumbled, a stake piercing her spine with a snap, her wail fading into frost. Vlad drove them onward, his heart alight with cruel satisfaction. Their despair built his fortress, their pain his eternal monument. In 1460, an Ottoman envoy, Mehmed scribe Yusuf, arrived in Targovist. His turban gleaming, he demanded tribute, eyes cold with imperial pride. Vlad's smile was thin as a blade. Stakes rose outside the hall, a silent answer. Yusuf's arrogance faltered, his hands trembling at Wallachia's unyielding defiance, and watched Yusuf's delegation leave, their faces pale with fear. She had reported their every word to Vlad, sealing their fate. Her brother, Petru, a stable boy, tugged her sleeve, his eyes wide. "You're killing us all," he whispered. Anna's chest tightened. Her loyalty to Vlad was a noose around her kin. Lord Stefan stood on Castle Dracula's walls, the wind biting his face. Below, the enslaved nobles toiled, their groans a haunting chorus. His son, Andrei, worked among them, his once proud gaze hollow. Stefan clenched his fists. He'd stood by Vlad, but at what cost to his blood? Maria, now a seamstress in Targovist, stitched in silence, her child asleep beside her. Each needle prick echoed her husband's final cry. She whispered to the shadows, vowing revenge. A rebel, Ivan, approached her at dusk, his voice low. Together, they'd make Vlad pay for his blood-soaked throne. Mehmed II's fury blazed as Yusuf returned, trembling with tales of stakes. The Sultan's court buzzed with rage. Wallachia dared defy the empire. Mehmed ordered an invasion, his voice a storm. In Targovist, Vlad heard the news, his jaw set. War loomed, and Wallachia would burn before it bowed. Yusuf, haunted by Wallachia's defiance, pinned a letter to Mehmed, his quill shaking. "This dragon breathes terror, not fire," he wrote, recalling the stake's shadows. He dreamt of screams, waking in cold sweat. His loyalty to the Sultan held, but his heart whispered. Vlad's land was a graveyard for empires. Petru fled to Targovist at dawn. Anna's betrayal a weight too heavy. He sought the revels, his small frame shivering in the frost. Ivan welcomed him, eyes sharp with hope. "You know Vlad's secrets," Ivan said. Petru nodded. His sister's loyalty would cost her, but he'd fight for Wallachia's soul. Stefan met Ivan in a forest clearing, moonlight glinting off their blades. Andrei's hollow gaze haunted him. He'd free his son or die trying. "Vlad's terror will end," Stefan vowed, joining the rebels. Their whispers grew. Wallachia's dragon would face a storm of its own making, forged in betrayal. Maria sharpened a dagger in her hovel, her child's breath soft in sleep. Ivan brought news. Vlad prepared for war, his focus on the Ottomans. She nodded, her eyes steel. "He'll never see me coming," she whispered. Her grief turned to fury, a blade ready to pierce the dragon's heart. Vlad stood in Targovist's war room, maps sprawled before him. Mehmed's army approached, a tide of steel. He ordered villages razed, wells poisoned, his voice unyielding. Anna watched, her heart torn. Petru's flight gnawed at her. Vlad's war would burn Wallachia, and she feared the dragon would consume them all. Vlad unleashed his wrath on Wallachia's villages, ordering them razed. Flames devoured homes, smoke choking the sky, wells were poisoned, the stench of decay rising. Anna rode beside him, her face pale. She'd seen Petru's flight, fearing his fate. Vlad's eyes were steel. Wallachia would be a graveyard for invaders. Anna's loyalty wavered as she watched villages burn, their cries haunting her. Petru's words, "You're killing us all," echoed in her mind. She sought Ivan in secret, her voice trembling. "I can't serve him anymore," she confessed. Ivan's gaze hardened. Anna's betrayal could turn the tide against the dragon. Stefan led rebels through Wallachia's forests. Andrei at his side, his son's spirit rekindled. They ambushed Ottoman scouts, blades flashing in moonlight. Stefan whispered to Andrei, "We'll free our land," but Andrei's eyes held doubt. Could they slay a dragon whose shadow swallowed Wallachia whole? Maria infiltrated Targovist's castle as a servant, her dagger hidden beneath her apron. She watched Vlad's war council, his voice cold as he planned Mehmed's defeat. Her heart raced. Each step closer to Vlad was a step toward vengeance. Ivan's words echoed, "Strike when he least expects." Yusuf, Mehmed's scribe, marched with the Ottoman army. Wallachia's scorched earth a nightmare. Villages stood empty, their wells fouled with death. "This dragon defies all reason," he wrote, his quill shaking. Despair gnawed at him. Could the Sultan conquer a land where even the air breathed terror? Petru trained with the rebels, his small hands gripping a blade. Ivan taught him to strike true, his voice firm. "You'll avenge your sister's betrayal," he said. Petru nodded, eyes fierce. Anna had chosen Vlad, but Petru chose Wallachia. The dragon's fire would face a boy's defiance. Vlad struck Mehmed's camp at midnight, his men a storm of steel. Chaos erupted, tents burning, soldiers fleeing into the dark. Vlad's voice rang out, commanding his men forward. Anna, hidden nearby, watched in horror. Her betrayal to Ivan had sparked this inferno, her brothers somewhere in the fray. Stefan's rebels joined Vlad's raid, but Andrei fell to an Ottoman spear, his blood soaking the earth. Stefan cradled his son, his cry echoing through the camp. "I failed you," he whispered, grief fueling his rage. Vlad's war had claimed his heir. Now Stefan fought for vengeance alone. Maria slipped into Vlad's tent during the raid, her dagger gleaming. He stood over maps, back turned, his voice a low growl. She lunged, but a guard seized her, her scream piercing the night. Vlad turned, his eyes narrowing. Her defiance would cost her more than her life. Yusuf fled the burning camp, Mehmed's army in disarray. Vlad's raid had shattered their morale, Walachia's dragon untouchable in the dark. "We cannot fight this devil," Yusuf whispered, his faith in the Sultan wavering. The road back to Edirne stretched long, each step heavy with dread. Vlad's night raid shattered Mehmed's camp, the Ottoman retreat a victory carved in fire. Tergovist rejoiced, but Vlad's gaze remained cold. He ordered captured soldiers displayed on stakes along the Danube, a grim warning. Anna turned away, her betrayal to Ivan a secret that gnawed at her fractured loyalty. On a road back to Targovist, the screams of the impaled echoing in her mind. Petru's face haunted her. She'd endangered her brother by aiding Ivan. "I thought I protected Wallachia," she whispered to the wind. Her loyalty to Vlad now felt like a chain, forged in blood and broken trust. Stefan rallied the rebels in Wallachia's forests, Andrei's death fueling his resolve. "We strike Vlad when he's weakest," he told Ivan, his voice raw. Ivan nodded, his gaze sharp. Petru's knowledge of Vlad's movements gave them an edge. The dragon's fire would face a storm of steel and grief. Maria knelt in Targovista's dungeon, her failed assassination a bitter weight. Vlad loomed over her, his voice a low growl. "You'll see your child suffer," he warned. Maria's defiance wavered, her heart breaking. She'd sought vengeance, but now her daughter's cries would haunt her final days. Yusuf returned to Edirne, Mehmed's fury a storm in the Sultan's court. "Wallachia's dragon defies us," Yusuf said, his voice hollow. He'd seen Vlad's terror, the stakes lining the Danube. Doubt crept in. Could the Ottoman Empire conquer a man who wielded fear like a blade? Petru trained with Ivan, his blade striking true against straw dummies. "You're ready," Ivan said, his tone firm. Petru's eyes burned. Anna's betrayal had cost him his home, but he'd reclaim Wallachia's soul. The rebels prepared to strike, their whispers a promise of the dragon's fall. A Hungarian envoy, Laszlo, arrived in Targoviz, sent by King Matthias Corvinus. He met Vlad, his gaze wary, noting the stakes outside. "Your methods stain Christendom," Laszlo warned, his voice steady. Vlad's smile was thin. Hungary's support wavered, and Wallachia stood alone against the Ottoman tide. Anna overheard Laszlo's warning, her heart racing. She slipped a message to Ivan, her hands trembling. "Hungary might turn on Vlad. I can't let Petru die," she whispered, her loyalty to Wallachia outweighing her fear. Her betrayal deepened, a crack in the dragon's iron grip on her soul. Stefan led the rebels to ambush Vlad's convoy, blades flashing in the dawn. Guards fell, but Vlad escaped, his eyes burning with rage. Stefan's heart sank. He'd failed again. Ivan pulled Petru close, their hope flickering. The dragon's wrath would hunt them through Wallachia's shadowed woods. Yusuf fled Edirne, Mehmed's court a nest of vipers after Wallachia's defiance. "The dragon will consume us all," he muttered, his faith in the Sultan shattered. He sought refuge in Hungary, Laszlo's words echoing. Vlad's terror had broken empires, but at what cost to those who resisted? Yusuf fled Edirne, Mehmed's court and nest of vipers, after Wallachia's defiance. "The dragon will consume us all," he muttered, his faith in the Sultan shattered. He sought refuge in Hungary, Laszlo's words echoing. Vlad's terror had broken empires, but at what cost to those who resisted? By 1462, Vlad ruled a fractured Wallachia, his terror isolating him. Boyars fled, merchants avoided Targovist, their whispers bitter. Aina hid in the shadows, her betrayal to Ivan a secret weight. Vlad stood alone in his war room, maps stained with blood, his throne a fortress of dread. Na fled to Targovista at dusk, her heart pounding. Petra's safety drove her. She'd find him among the rebels. Ivan's last message burned in her mind. Vlad knows. Guards searched the woods, their torches flickering. Anna's breath caught. Her betrayal had turned Wallachia's dragon into her hunter. Ethan and Ivan ambushed Vlad's patrol in a snowy pass, Petru at their side. Blades clashed, blood staining the frost. Stefan's roar echoed as a guard fell, his son's death avenged. But Vlad's forces closed in, their numbers overwhelming. The rebels' defiance teetered on the edge of doom. Maria faced Vlad in Targovist Square, her daughter clutching her hand. His sentence was swift, exile, not death. "Live with your failure," he hissed. Maria's eyes burned with hate as she was driven out, her child's sobs haunting her. Vengeance slipped away, leaving only a mother's broken heart. Yusuf found shelter in Hungary, Laszlo's court a fragile haven. "Wallachia's dragon consumes all," he warned, his voice hollow. Laszlo nodded, his face grim. Vlad's terror stained Christendom's name. Hungary's king Matthias listened, his patience thinning. Vlad's reign had become a liability for all allies. Petru sharpened his blade in the rebel camp, Ivan's training etching scars on his hands. "We'll end him," he vowed, his voice steady despite his youth. Stefan watched, pride mixing with fear. The boy's courage mirrored Andrei's, but Wallachia's dragon would not fall to a child's blade so easily. Matthias Corvinus ordered Vlad's capture, Hungary's alliance crumbling. Laszlo led the soldiers to Wallachia, their banners stark against the snow. Vlad fought, his sword flashing, but numbers overwhelmed him. Chains bound him once more, his roar echoing. Wallachia's dragon was caged, his terror paused but not extinguished. Anna reached the rebel camp, finding Petru among the fighters. She fell to her knees, tears streaming. "I betrayed him for you," she whispered. Petru's gaze softened, but Ivan's voice cut through. "Vlad's captured, but his shadow lingers." The siblings' reunion was bittersweet, their fight far from over. Stefan watched Vlad's capture from the forest, his heart torn. Andrei's death still stung, but Wallachia's dragon was gone, for now. "We're free, but at what cost?" he muttered to Ivan. The rebels dispersed, their victory hollow. Stefan's gaze lingered on the horizon, fearing Vlad's return. Yusuf penned his account in Hungary, his quill trembling. "Wallachia's dragon ruled through terror, but terror consumed him," he wrote. Laszlo read the words, his jaw tight. Vlad's legacy would haunt Christendom. In a distant cell, Vlad's chains rattled, his eyes burning with a fire that refused to die. In 1462, Vlad languished in a Hungarian cell, iron chains biting his wrists. Darkness cloaked him, but his eyes burned with defiance. Laszlo visited, his voice heavy. "Your terror cost Wallachia its allies," he said. Vlad's silence roared louder. His reign of fear had ended, but his shadow lingered. Anna and Petru fled Wallachia, their steps hurried through snowy passes. "He'll return," Anna whispered, her breath visible in the frost. Petru clutched her hand, his resolve firm. They sought refuge in Transylvania, but Vlad's name echoed behind them, a dragon's whisper that hunted their every step. As Stefan left Wallachia, his rebel band scattered. He carried Ungiz's memory like a stone, settling in Moldavia's quiet hills. "I fought for freedom, but lost my son," he told a local priest, his voice raw. The priest's gaze softened. Wallachnia's dragon had broken more than its enemies. Maria and her daughter reached Transylvania, a merchant offering them shelter. "Wallachnia's dragon is caged," he said, pity in his eyes. Maria nodded, her hands trembling as she sewed. Her vengeance had failed, but her child's laughter gave her hope, a fragile light in her darkened world. Yusuf's chronicle reached Matthias' court, his words a warning. "Vlad's terror will inspire others," he wrote, his quill steady. Laszlo read aloud, his voice grim. Europe whispered of Wallachnia's dragon. Matthias frowned, his crown heavy. The dragon's legacy would haunt Christendom long after his chains rusted. Petro trained in Transylvania's woods, his blade sharper with each day. Ivan's lessons lingered, but he parted ways, seeking Stefan. "We'll rebuild Wallachia," he vowed, his voice fierce. Anna watched, pride mixing with fear. Her brother had grown, but Vlad's shadow still loomed over their fragile hope. Laszlo stood in Matthias' court, 1463, as nobles debated Vlad's fate. "He's a monster," one lord spat. Laszlo countered. He held the Ottomans at bay. Matthias' gaze was cold. Vlad's terror had saved Wallachia, but stained Hungary's name. The dragon's fate hung in a delicate, dangerous balance. A German chronicler, Hans, visited Hungary, hearing Yusuf's tales. He wrote of Vlad's reign, his quill trembling. "A dragon ruled Wallachia, his terror a blade," he penned. The pamphlet spread, Vlad's name growing into legend. A monster born of blood, his story whispered in Europe's shadowed halls. Vlad sat in his cell, 1465, his silence a storm. Guards feared his gaze, his chains rattling with each breath. "You'll never break me," he hissed to Laszlo during a visit. Laszlo turned away, his heart heavy. Wallachnia's dragon was caged, but his fire still burned within. In 1474, Hungary freed Vlad, Matthias kneading his blade against the Ottomans. Vlad emerged, gaunt but unbowed, his eyes still burning with fire. Laszlo watched, unease stirring. Wallachnia's dragon had returned. Vlad's voice was a growl. "My enemies will remember my name." The shadow of terror rose once more. Anna heard of Vlad's release in Transylvania, her heart sinking. "He'll hunt us," she whispered to Petru, her hands trembling. Petru's gaze hardened. He'd grown into a fighter, but fear lingered. They'd built a fragile life, but Vlad's return cast a shadow that threatened to shatter their peace. Stefan returned to Wallachia, drawn by whispers of Vlad's freedom. He found his old lands desolate, villagers fearful. "The dragon walks again," a farmer muttered, eyes downcast. Stefan's resolve wavered. He'd fought Vlad once, but could he face the man whose terror had broken his family? Maria, now a baker in Transylvania, froze at the news of Vlad's release. Her daughter Elena played nearby, unaware of the dragon's shadow. "He'll come for us," Maria whispered, her hand shaking as she kneaded dough. Her failed vengeance had marked them. Wallachnia's terror would not forget. Yusuf's chronicle reached Venice by 1475, merchants trading tales of Wallachnia's dragon. A scholar, Marco, read it, his hands trembling. "This Vlad surpasses devils," he wrote, his quill scratching late into the night. Yusuf's words lived on, a warning of terror that echoed across Europe's shadowed courts. Petru left Transylvania, seeking Stefan to warn him of Vlad's return. "We must stop him," he told Ivan, his voice steady. Ivan nodded, his scars a testament to their fight. They gathered old rebels, their blades ready. Wallachnia's dragon would face the fire of their defiance once more. Laszlo, now an advisor in Matthias' court, heard of Vlad's campaigns. "He fights for us, but his terror taints our name," he told the king, his voice tight. Matthias's gaze was cold. Vlad's blade was sharp, but his legacy poisoned Hungary's alliances. The dragon's freedom came at a cost. Hans's pamphlet spread across Germany, tales of Vlad's reign growing into legend. "The Impaler dines on blood," a peasant whispered in a tavern, fear in his eyes. Hans rode on, his quill a weapon. Vlad's name became a specter, haunting Europe with whispers of Walachia's dragon. In 1476, Vlad reclaimed Walachia's throne, his army small but fierce. He faced the Ottomans near Bucharest, blades clashing in the snow. Mehmed's forces closed in, their numbers overwhelming. Vlad fought, his roar echoing. Walachia's dragon would not fall without bathing the earth in blood. Anna fled deeper into Transylvania as Vlad's battle raged, Petru's absence a gaping wound. "I should have stopped him," she whispered, tears freezing on her cheeks. Rumors of Vlad's fight reached her, carried by a fleeing soldier. Wallachia burned once more, its dragon's fire a dying, vengeful flame. In 1476, Vlad fell near Bucharest, an Ottoman blade piercing his chest. Blood soaked the snow, his roar fading into silence. Mehmed's soldiers claimed victory, but whispers lingered. Walachia's dragon had defied empires. His body vanished, swallowed by the frost, his legend already rising from the battlefield's ashes. Anna heard of Vlad's death in Transylvania, her knees buckling. Petru was missing, lost in the battle. "I sent him to his doom," she wept, her hands clutching snow. The dragon was gone, but her brother's fate haunted her. Walachia's freedom had cost her everything she loved. Stefan learned of Vlad's fall in Moldavia, his heart a hollow echo. "He's gone, but so is Andrei," he whispered to the wind. The dragon's terror had ended, but Stefan's lands lay desolate. He carved Andrei's name into a tree, a father's grief etched in bark. Maria baked bread in Transylvania, Elena's laughter filling their home. News of Vlad's death reached her, a weight lifting. "We're free," she told Elena, her voice soft. But her hands trembled. She'd never avenged her husband. The dragon's shadow faded, leaving a mother's quiet hope in its wake. Yusuf's chronicles spread to Constantinople by 1477, merchants whispering of Vlad's fall. "The dragon's terror died with him," a trader said, his voice low. But Yusuf's words lingered, a warning of power unchecked. In Wallachia, villagers rebuilt, their scars a testament to the dragon's fleeting, fiery reign. Petru survived Bucharest's battle, wounded but alive, searching for Anna. He limped through Transylvania's woods, his blade heavy with memory. "I'll find her," he vowed, his breath ragged. Ivan's lessons guided him. Walachia's dragon was dead, but Petru's fight for family burned brighter than ever. Laszlo stood in Matthias's court, 1477, as nobles spoke of Vlad's death. "His terror saved Wallachia, but damned us," Laszlo said, his voice heavy. Matthias nodded. Vlad's legacy stained Hungary's name. The dragon's fall brought relief, but his shadow lingered in Europe's fearful whispers. Hans' pamphlets reached Italy by 1480. Vlad's name, a specter. The Impaler ruled through blood. A Venetian scholar read aloud, his voice trembling. The tales grew. Vlad dining among the dying, a monster born of war. Walachia's dragon became legend, his terror immortalized in ink and fear. Anna found Petru in a Transylvanian village, his arm bandaged, eyes weary. She ran to him, tears streaming. "I thought I'd lost you," she whispered, clutching him tight. Petru smiled faintly. Walachia's dragon was dead, but their scars whispered of a terror that would never fully fade. Stefan visited Andrew's grave in Moldavia 1480, the tree bearing his son's name now tall. "Wallach's ear heals, but we're broken," he told the priest, his voice soft. Vlad's reign had ended, but its echoes lingered. A dragon's terror that shaped a land through blood and unyielding fear. By 1500, Vlad's name echoed in Europe's courts. a specter of terror. Hans' pamphlets painted him as a bloodthirsty fiend, tales growing darker. In Venice, Marco read aloud, his voice trembling. "Wallachhia's dragon haunts us still," he said. Vlad's legacy became a myth, his terror a shadow across time. Anna, now elderly in Transylvania, told Petru's children of Wallachhia's dragon. "I betrayed him to save us," she whispered, her voice frail. Petru listened, his scars a silent testament. Their family survived, but Vlad's name lingered. A cautionary tale carved into their lineage, a whisper of terror endured. Stefan, gray and bent, shared Vlad's story with Moldavian villagers in 1505. "He saved Wallachia but broke its soul," he said, his eyes distant. A young scribe, Elena, wrote his words, her quill steady. The dragon's terror lived on, a lesson in power's cost, etched in a boyar's regret. Maria passed in 1510, Elena now a young woman in Transylvania. Mother hated him, but were free, Elena told her husband, her voice soft. Vlad's name was a distant echo, his terror a faded scar. They rebuilt their lives. Wallachhia's dragon a shadow that no longer darkened their days. Yusuf's chronicle reached scholars in Florence by 1520, translated by Marco. Vlad ruled through fear, but fear consumed him, Marco read, his tone heavy. Students listened, their faces pale. Wallachhia's dragon became a study in power's corruption, his legacy a warning whispered in Renaissance halls. Petru's son Mihai grew in Transylvania, 1530, hearing tales of Vlad. "Your father fought the dragon?" Anna told him, her voice weak. Mihai nodded, his eyes fierce. He'd honored Petru's courage. Wallachhia's terror had faded, but its lessons shaped a lineage of resilience against tyranny's shadow. Laszlo, now old in Buda, 1525, spoke of Vlad to young nobles. "His terror held the Ottomans, but damned us," he said, his voice bitter. A chronicler, Tomas, recorded his words. "Wallachhia's dragon lingered in Hungary's memory, a scar on Christendom's honor, a tale of fear's double edge." Hans' tales reached England by 1550, Vlad's name a myth of horror. "The Impaler drank blood," a London printer claimed, his voice eager. The legend grew, Vlad becoming a monster in folklore. Wallachhia's dragon transcended history, his terror a story that chilled Europe's firesides for centuries. By 1600, Vlad's legacy inspired tales of vampires, his terror immortalized. In Wallachia, a peasant whispered the dragon's spirit walks, fear in his eyes. Scholars debated his cruelty, his methods a study in power. Wallachhia's dragon lived on, a name synonymous with fear's unyielding grip. Anna died in 1490. Petru at her side, her final words a plea. "Forgive me," she breathed, her hand clutching his. Petru nodded, tears falling. Wallachhia's dragon had taken much, but they'd survived. Her grave bore no name, a spymaster's legacy buried beneath a quiet Transylvanian hill. In 1897, Bram Stoker penned Dracula, Vlad's legacy reborn as a vampire. "Wallachhia's dragon inspired this fiend," a London critic wrote, his voice awed. Stoker's novel gripped readers, Vlad's name now a myth of blood. The dragon's terror evolved, haunting modernity with a shadow that drank the night. In 1900, Mihai's grandson Dragos visited Wallachia, hearing tales of his ancestors. "Anna betrayed the dragon," an old villager whispered, her eyes distant. Dragos felt pride. His family survived Vlad's reign. The dragon's terror was a faded echo, but its lessons shaped his resolve to protect his lineage. Stefan's tale reached a Romanian scholar in 1920, Elena's descendant, Iana, reading his words. "Wallachhia's dragon broke us," she wrote, her quill steady. Iana taught history, Vlad's legacy a lesson in power's cost. The boyar's grief lived on, a whisper of terror in Romania's modern classrooms. Elena's great-granddaughter, Sofia, thrived in Bucharest by 1950, a teacher of folklore. "Vlad's terror saved us," she told her students, her voice soft. Sofia honored Maria's resilience, the dragon's shadow a distant memory. Wallachia's scars had healed, its people stronger for the terror they'd endured. Yusuf's chronicle inspired a Turkish historian in 1960, Ahmed, who translated it anew. "Vlad's methods echo in modern tyrants," he wrote, his tone grave. Ahmed's work reached universities, The Dragon's Terror, a study in fear's grip. Wallachia's legacy warned of power unchecked, its lessons, time. Petru's lineage, through Dragos, flourished in Romania by 1970. His descendant, Andrei, named for Stefan's son, became a soldier. "Our family defied the dragon," he told his son, pride in his voice. Vlad's terror had faded, but Petru's courage lived on, a beacon for Romania's future. Laszlo's memoirs were found in Budapest, 1980, a historian, Clara, reading them. "Vlad's terror cost us dearly," she noted, her voice soft. Clara taught her students of Hungary's role. Wallachia's dragon had shaped history, a lesson in alliances torn by fear, etched in a fading past. Hans tales inspired films by 1990, Vlad's name a horror icon. "The Impaler's legacy lives," a director said, his voice awed. In Wallachia, villagers whispered of spirits. Vlad's shadow a myth. The dragon's terror became art, his cruelty a mirror to humanity's darkest fears. In 2025, Vlad's legacy filled museums, his name a study in power's cost. Wallachia's dragon taught us fear's limits. A historian lectured, her voice firm. Scholars debated his cruelty, his methods a warning. Tyranny's shadow lingered, a lesson carved in history's unyielding stone. Vlad's name endures, a specter of terror and defiance. In Bucharest 2025, Dragos' descendant Elena taught her child, "The dragon's terror shaped us." Wallachia's scars whisper through time. What price do we pay for power? The Impaler's echo lingers, a lesson for all who seek his crown.